So good evening, participants.
Evening, Dr. How are you?
I'm well. So I think in the interest of time, we can have our session starting so that we can take care of the time. I can see we are around 14 of us in class. Of course, around 13 because we have our ICT officer, one Aquila on board. And I think it would be ideal that we have our session this evening so that we also take care of time. Perhaps it would be important to get to know that during this session, I'll be taking you through effective training principles, ideally to understand more on the concept of training as facilitators. My name is Martin Kisilu. I work for Kemi as a trainer in the Directorate of Education Management. So, colleagues, I think it would also be important to get to know those who are in the room. So perhaps, Aquila, you could also introduce yourself. And perhaps since we are not very many of us, we can also say our names and perhaps where we are coming from so that we can start our class. Over to you, Aquila. You can unmute our participants. Aquila, can you hear me? Aquila? I don't know whether our ICT officer has some technical challenge from his end. But perhaps if you can unmute and of course say your name and the institution where you're coming from.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Boniface.
This is Boniface Bet from Nandi County, Baraton University.
Thank you, Boniface.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, Amos.
Good evening.
Yes, Kirwa Amos from Nairobi, Summit Institute of Professional Studies, CPA Center.
Great. Karibu sana.
All right. Good evening, Daktari and team.
Good evening.
Humble Mpole, Zitek University. Thank you.
Great.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Elijah.
Good evening, sir.
I'm Elijah Unduso from the Ministry of Labor under the Directorate of Learning and Education.
Great. Another colleague.
Yeah, good evening.
Esther.
I'm Esther Mesa, a paramedic from Kisumu.
Nice. Great. Could we have another colleague?
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I'm Jared Cherop from Kenya Power.
Oh, nice.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sylvester.
This is Sylvester Namagwa from the National Treasury.
Oh, nice. Another colleague.
Good evening.
Good evening,
This is Joseph Washira. Yes, I represent Explorium Scientists Limited and also a teaching assistant at the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton.
Great.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, David.
Yes, I am David Chebor, a trainer of telecommunication engineering at Emining Technical Training Institute in Baringo.
Oh, great. Yes. Another colleague, are we done?
Martin Kisilu.
Yes. So we are done. Those of us who are in the room. I think I started by introducing myself and I have a colleague on board and that is our ICT support. Perhaps he could also mention his name and I think he had some issues. He is not. Aquila, are you on board now? So perhaps I could mention his name as he tries to also settle down. Our ICT support during this session and perhaps in other sessions will be Aquila Mudomi Kinywa, an ICT officer from Kemi. So thank you so much, colleagues, and I want to appreciate the diverse representation of where we come from. and the interest, of course, you have in this particular course. It's my hope that you have had your earlier introduction sessions on this particular course. This evening, we want to look at how we could empower you as facilitators, and especially putting into mind that as facilitators, as trainers, it is important that we really need to understand and apply effectively the training principles. And for this reason, we must also understand clearly the concept of training. So this is not a very long session. It will be a short one, but perhaps it will be important to let you know that it's important that we get to understand ideally what we mean by training and the importance of training in facilitation and the key features for facilitators, and how we need really to understand how, as facilitators, we need to make a transition from teaching to training. So ideally, when you talk about training, of course, which is very different from teaching, you need to understand that this is an approach that ideally aims at imparting very specific skills, very specific competencies, knowledge, and attitudes. And its focus is quite practical. And of course, the outcome of this process, of course, is aligned with the goals of an individual learners or a particular organization. There's a reason why you as a person, you've come for this particular training. And that is why actually I wanted us to introduce ourselves. And you've heard that all of us are coming from different organizations. And there's a reason why you've made a choice as a person to undertake this particular training. Perhaps you are engaged in an assignment that the organization would like you to actually impart some very practical skills and competencies, knowledge, and attitudes to individuals, so that, of course, at some point, the outcome, the goals of the institution where you are in can also be achieved. So ideally, that is what we mean by training. And as we go further to look into the details of this particular process, that of course is important for us to understand that as facilitators, we empower participants to achieve very tangible results. Whatever period of time you engage your participants in, it is intentional that you must actually very tangible. Through interactive methods, facilitators can enhance learner confidence and enable them to tackle professional challenges effectively. And I'm saying this because in training, we must always ensure that we engage, we actually interact. And for us to deliver the competencies, the skills, the knowledge, the attitudes that we would like to have, then we must always ensure that we actually have pedagogical skills that ensure that we are really interactive. So, as facilitators, it is important that, of course, you learn skills on how to collaborate, skills on how to ensure that these measurable improvements in performance are attained, and you should actually aim to be learner or participant centered, so that, of course, the kind of environment that you are actually navigating as you train, then, of course, is an environment that you are able to really engage the learners fully. Colleagues, I want us to understand the fact that there is a transition from teaching to training. And so for you to be an effective facilitator or a trainer of trainers, it is important that you make a deliberate paradigm shift from teaching, which is actually knowledge-based, to training that is actually learner or participant-centered. And here, you actually act as a guide. You cannot be a source of knowledge. You only guide participants to learn. And here, you do this by ensuring that you foster active participation and actually guide the learners or the participants through a learning experience, through collaboration, through mutual guidance. And it is only through this that you will actually facilitate the transfer of competencies, skills, and attitudes to the participants. So here, we would like you to guide, we would like you to facilitate, and we would like you to achieve this through a very collaborative environment, an environment that is learner-centered. So it's important that as we go through this course, then you realize that it is very critical for you to really make a dichotomy between the art of teaching and the art of facilitation, because the two are too different. You cannot just go into a facilitation class or into a training class and then, of course, you go teach. It is not practical, it is not relevant, it is not going to yield results. Otherwise, the very idea of training is centered in what I've just discussed, that we must be collaborative, we must create an environment, and we must be, of course, trainers who are able to guide the process of learning. So that, of course, you're only making a transfer of knowledge by guiding and by making, of course, this process quite interactive and elaborate as a process driven by the participants themselves. So what then makes the difference between facilitation and teaching? Because the emphasis here is how do we do it as trainers? And therefore, here, the dichotomy or the difference between these two, of course, phases is that when you look at the nature and focus, you realize that teaching typically involves the transfer of broad knowledge and theories. It will emphasize on long-term intellectual growth, whereas when you talk about training, the focus here is on the development of very specific practical skills that will aim at immediate application of measurable outcomes. And this one will ensure readiness or will prepare, of course, people for professional tasks. So you will be actually training people most of the times, ideally, to ensure that, of course, you achieve short-term outcomes. And perhaps if it is in, all of us are coming from different institutions. And the reason why I was actually able to ask us, where are we coming from, is because we would like to guide our colleagues in preparation or in readiness for their professional tasks by ensuring that we deliver, of course, very specific and practical skills that will yield some immediate outcomes. The other one will be on the role of the trainer. That is actually another difference that, of course, comes in when you talk about teaching and training. So traditionally, of course, in teaching, the teacher, of course, is the source of knowledge, an authority who delivers content, while in training, of course, the facilitator only plays the role of guidance, and you only encourage, of course, participants to participate, to engage, to collaborate, and that is the kind of environment. Because ideally, you are not source, you are not an authority, you only guide the process of life. You facilitate. That's how ideally we say we are facilitators. We facilitate actually learning. So here it is now the dichotomy will also come in when you talk about the role of the trainer. The methodologies as well, because in teaching, of course, we utilize, of course, lectures, readings, theoretical discussions, and of course, some primary methodologies in the delivery of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Whereas in training, of course, this is quite experiential, and we actually must adopt things like group work, role plays, and how to enhance practical skill development and engagement among participants. So again, when it comes to methodologies, then this is another way, of course, we can also ensure that, of course, we compare both training and teaching. The other one is on outcomes and assessments. And of course, the outcomes of teaching are typically knowledge accumulation assessed through exams and other, of course, traditional methods of assessment. While in, of course, in training, of course, skill acquisition and performance improvement, which is evaluated through practical demonstrations. How practically can you demonstrate a skill? Peer evaluations, of course, because we also do peer learning. And here we are also looking at peer evaluations and allowing for immediate feedback during training. So this is also one way in which, of course, now we try to bring out, of course, the difference between training and teaching through looking at how we assess outcomes and how we also carry out the assessment of these two areas. The other issue that I would like us to look into during these sessions is on the principles of learning. And the principles of learning, of course, for ladder learners, one of them that we must understand, of course, as facilitators, is on motivation. Motivation. And of course, adult learners value motivation that connects training to real life application. And here we need to ensure that our participants are motivated, and therefore your training must be relevant. It must enhance engagement and ownership over learning and ensure that we increase the participants' commitment to mastery of skills. So let us ensure that as you engage participants in a training sessions, ensure, and most of the time our participants are adult learners. Ensure that our adult learners are motivated to learn. That is principle number one in training. We must ensure that our learners, our participants are motivated. The other principle is on feedback. And of course, for training, we must always insist on timely feedback so that, of course, we can be able to know whether we are impacting on our learners. So you must actually look for what we call assessment for learning. And here we must actually reflect during a training session and look at what went well. And of course, provide constructive feedback to our participants. And it is two-way. The participants should also be able to provide feedback on how you are able as a facilitator to bring out feedback, to actually carry out. And through this feedback, actually to ensure that you improve on how you handle future sessions and all that. So ensure your feedback. Sorry, other than motivation and attain. So participant feedback and ensure they also give feedback about how you actually have managed facilitation. Reinforcement. And here we are talking about positive reinforcement. And positive reinforcement encourages desired behaviors among participants. And of course, we must recognize, of course, participants' achievements, regardless of actually how small or big they are. We must create a supportive learning environment that promotes continued engagement and effort. So as you train, learn to reinforce. And what the reinforcement that we are discussing here is actually positive reinforcement. Let us encourage our adult learners. Let us ensure that they actually you're able to really share with them in terms of what they have been able to really manage as outcomes during the process of learning, and encourage them by actually recognizing their achievements and creating an environment that will actually make them eager to even learn more. The other principle is on retention. And of course, retention, of course, will center on your ability to engage on some strategies like storytelling, mnemonics, to enhance the memory of adult learners. Ensure abstract concepts are actually demystified, made simpler by using, of course, the marrying quite a number of techniques in your delivery. Mnemonics will enable them master concepts that are abstract. If it's a principle, the principles of management, for example, you know all of them. Can you be able, for example, if you are training on the principles of management as a first, when you are talking about planning, all those principles of management, are you able, Henry Fayol identified all those processes and principles of management. Are you able to look at all of them and perhaps find a simpler mnemonic that will enable actually your 100 participants master what you are really trying to bring out in an entire session? So try also to give examples that are linked to real world scenarios so that, of course, this can aid in transfer of knowledge post-training. We have another principle, and this is on practice. So even as you train, can you ensure that there is hands-on experience? For example, you can actually make simulations, role plays, empower learners to confront real-world challenges, make actually training interactive, and ensure that, of course, you're able to marry or to make sure that, of course, you engage them in quite a number of multimedia aspects. When you are doing simulations, you can use the internet to simulate, of course, abstract concepts. Of course, you remember very well during our times, like, of course, I remember Mwalimu sometimes back when we were looking at, of course, the idea of fertilization. Of course, they could talk about the movement of the pollen grains from the stigma to the anthers and that. And of course, now, Mwalimu could conclude by telling us that, you cannot see that kind of movement with your naked eye. How our eyes were naked, I really cannot now understand. But of course, now, yes, we understand now that's a complex process. The pollination of plants, for example, when you look about the idea of pollination of plants, and of course, you have to look at how now that movement of the pollen grains from the stigma to the anthers and all that, then of course that is now something that you are training on that one and you can simulate. You can go to the internet and of course now you show your participants how now this abstract process that cannot be seen with naked eyes is now a concept that can be seen. So here, confidently, you will solidify their skills during training and, of course, ensure that, of course, retention for learning and, of course, making hands-on learning practical happens. So ensure that they also practice using hands-on experience, of course, activities. Of course, we also have a principle of transfer of learning. And here, the skills gained during the training should apply across various contexts. Encourage, of course, your learners or your participants to have what you call the reflective process. And of course, here they are able to look at how they apply what they have learned in their job, of course, in their various job assignments. And this actually will help them in continuous development beyond even the training session to more practical application of that knowledge in their professional tasks. Moving forward, we would like to look at how do we apply and reflect during training. And I want to say that in the interest of time and where I am, because I may not really have adequate, of course, power, I was actually traveling and I want to confess that I do not have adequate power. We may not really go into, I had prepared to have you in breakout rooms. We look at how we apply the principles, have a discussion, and give feedback, just as one of the ways in which, of course, we just ensure that you make learning learner-centered, make them part of the learning. But of course, unfortunately, we may not be able to go into breakout rooms and even look at how we solve I had also another session on how we can solve facilitation challenges, but of course, these will also be part of the notes that I will be sharing after this session. So ideally, I want to say that it's also important that you look at how do you apply the learning principles that, of course, we've gone through these. So ensure that, of course, you are able to, you can have this as a takeaway. You relook at how you can apply quite a number of the learning principles or the training principles that we've just looked at in your professional tasks. And again, I would like also, as part of building our competencies and skills, how do you solve some of the facilitation challenges that you as a person may be encountering? And therefore, these will also build our skills and competencies to better, of course, facilitators. So then it's important that, of course, as facilitators, we reflect on our roles. And I want to say that we must make a balance between teaching and training by adopting what we've called a participant-centered approach. And a participant-centered approach fosters engagement. And I've just talked about the art of reflection. Here, you should be able to look and reflect back on the principles that we've talked about and see which of the principles resonates most with you and which of the strategies will enable you to actually enhance the training environment for your participants. So look at all those principles, look at what resonates best with you, look at how you can actually tailor-make some of the strategies we've discussed here to enhance your training environment. In conclusion, colleagues, I started by saying that this is a very short session for me, and I'll be able to share more. And as we progress, to enable you, of course, interact more with the content. I want to say that training is not solely about knowledge transfer, but rather it encompasses creating environments for growth and skill development. And my colleagues, I would like to implore on you that facilitators are always encouraged to share insights and implement learned strategies to foster a culture of continuous improvement. Whatever you learn, kindly ensure that you are able to, or you find an opportunity to implement. It's only through that you will be able really to actually continuously improve your skills, your competencies as trainers, as facilitators. So it's important that you continue learning on more insights, on more strategies, on facilitation principles. And when you learn of what is required of each of the principles, can you make it a deliberate effort that you practice that and get feedback from trainers, your colleague trainers, get feedback from participants as well. And this will enable you build a culture of continuous improvement. And over time, you realize that you will actually become a very competent, fluent, flexible facilitator for anything. Because for us in the world of training, we can train on anything. And that is why even for us here, you can hear from our colleagues that I'm from Kenya Power, I'm from this university, I'm from this department, I'm from Ministry of Labor. But all of us have sessions that we can actually facilitate on. And therefore, for us in our various professional tasks, to be able to deliver this kind of information, for us to be able to guide a process of learning in the attainment of short-term learning outcomes, to enhance the outcomes of the organizational goals, then we really need to learn a few of the issues that we've discussed this evening and perhaps put them into practice. Colleagues, I would not like to end this session without a Q&A session. And I would like to really open up now these sessions so that, of course, we can have a few questions put across, and then, of course, we give a few responses, and then, of course, we call it a day. So over to you, and the plenary is open for anyone, so that, of course, you can pose your questions. Aquila, enable the participants to unmute. Or perhaps you can also unmute. You can share your compliments, any issues that you have, and then, of course, we look at how we handle that. Aquila? Colleagues, you could even raise up your hand, and if you have an issue, of course, you put it across.
Hello, Bwana Martin.
Yes. Yes, sir.
This is David Chebor, the trainer from Eminent Technical Training Institute, Baringo. Now, I was following your presentation. It is okay, but I find it I think you are very fast, Dogo. I don't know if you will send us an overview of the your notes so that we can be able to revisit again.
Sorry, I was fast. I can be able to share my presentation with the class.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be able to do that through the coordinator for this. Yes, I'll be able to do that.
All right, thank you.
You could voice also your other concerns as a team.
All right, maybe I can add another one.
Yes.
For assessment, I don't know what is the mode of assessment in this training.
Perhaps we have a session on that one, and the coordinator, of course, will be able to share with you. But of course, at the end of this course, you are actually expected to do an exit assessment in the form of a reflective journal. And I don't know whether this was put across to you during the introduction session. So you are supposed actually to do a reflective journal so that, of course, you can actually give a record of your learning journey during the Trainer of Trainers course. Ideally to just give a documentary or some documented evidence of your learning journey for this particular course through what we call a reflective journal. And I think the coordinator over time should be able to really bring this out to the members so that, of course, they can be able to really also keep on preparing. So for each of the sessions that you are taken through, ensure that, of course, you are able to get a few issues that, of course, will form part of your reflective journal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kisi.
I can see from Faith Muea, I was very fast. And the reason why I'm very fast is because I am actually running out of power and I'm traveling, and I really didn't want to really perhaps lose you people along the way. You'll excuse me for that, and I'm sorry for that. Another concern? Cherop, Jared, are you okay?
I'm very much okay, Mr. Kisilu. Yeah.
For you, I was still very fast, but did you make a following of the principles of training?
Of course, I listed 6 principles of training.
Can you just give me 2?
There is the motivation issue factor.
And that is the first one. Thank you very much.
There is also the feedback.
Very good. And of course, now feedback is very important. Ensure that during any training session, as a facilitator, you are able to get feedback to the participants, and they are also able to give you feedback on how the training has been. Like, of course, I am quite insisting, in as much as this was a short, fast session, I still would like to get feedback on how the session was. I am very fast, so that I can also try to improve next time, and I also prepare on how do I really ensure that, of course, for those of colleagues of ours who are not able to really get me well, how do I mitigate that? Perhaps by sharing my presentation. So thank you very much. for that and for following and for ensuring that, of course, you keep record of what we learn. Esther Mesa. Esther, are you okay?
I am.
You are?
Yes.
I think I am not seeing any person with an issue, any participant with an issue. I am only sampling. Sylvester? Sylvester, can you unmute yourself? Ample Mpole has an issue. Yes, you can unmute and talk. Ample Mpole. Ample, your hand is up. You can talk. Ample, his hand is up,
Martin.
but yes.
Martin,
yes.
Yes. I'm very happy of the principle of retention.
Yes.
And reinforcement. This one, it made me even to think when I was in class. Sometimes you may find that you may find trainees. Sometimes they can get out of touch in class. So this one, whereby you introduce something which brings their mind back to class. The principle of retention is the one to have.
Yes.
Yes. So another one, again, that one for reinforcement. As a trainer, I find that what we have, the principles that you have taught us today, just makes me to, and it makes me to, nikuwe nakumbuka kabisa that I am in a class.
Sure. And perhaps you could also have learned that traditionally you need to vary your methods of training. You don't need to really have, like, I'm happy at least you've gotten what I wanted to pass across this evening. And we must not be here for 2 hours for us to be able to learn what we intend to learn. And like you've seen, I've not used slides. I have used an interactive app known as Prezi to present this information to you. So it's also important that you also learn on how can you engage your learners, how can you make training effective by varying even the kind of, even your presentation. So you don't need even to prepare slides. And by the way, I want to let you know that slides are now traditional. So we must also ensure that we move away from that. So colleagues, in the interest of time, because I can see now my laptop is shutting down, kindly allow us to end the class. I will still find time to be back because I know I have another session with you on TOT. We will have a longer period of interaction, and perhaps in case of anything, I could still share my number. My number is 0722 840 591. 0722 840 591. Let us keep on engaging and let us keep on learning from each other as you journey through this particular training. Asanteni sana, and sorry for the short time that we were able to interact. I am looking forward to much more meaningful interaction with you in the near future. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Thank you so much.
Asante sana. Asante. Good evening. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening.